Donkey Kong Country. Alright, Tharpedo here with a game review, and today we're talking about Donkey Kong Country. That's right, I said it, Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, I like this game.
One of the best games of all time, in my opinion. My hair looks a little wacky. Or should I say bananas? Yeah, this is one of my favorite platformers of all time, one of my favorite games of all time. It could be traced back to when I was just a 5-year-old, basically. I had this game as a child. It was my sister's Super Nintendo. I should have mentioned that this game is for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Oops. It came out in I want to say it's either 93 or 94. I spent much of my childhood, much of my adolescence playing this game, and it really shaped a lot of my tastes for video games. I don't play a lot of turn-based RPGs with grinding and upgrading and placing tokens in slots and mastering skill levels. I don't play a lot of games like that. Sometimes, but very rarely. I like simple, to-the-point platforming, adventure games, things like that, stuff that Nintendo really excels at making. And Donkey Kong Country, I loved that series back then. I love the series now when they rebooted it in 2010. And I gotta be honest, I think I like it even more than Super Mario. I know that's like sacrilege. I know that's not the norm to feel that way, but the Donkey Kong Country series, I think, is vastly underappreciated by many people, and I don't think it gets the cred that it deserves. Not only just as a platformer, but as a video game series. This game was actually, a lot of people don't know this, but if you do your research or if you're around at that time, this game was actually quite revolutionary for its time. People hadn't really seen 3D rendering like this before, at least in terms of home video game consoles. Sure, there were impressive graphics in the arcade scene, but as far as home consoles go, this was really the cream of the crop. And people described this game as eye-popping, dazzling, beautiful. Even now, when you go back and compare it to other games in that time frame, it really does stand out as being unique. I mean, there hadn't really been a game, let alone a side-scrolling game that looked like that prior to this coming out. Basically, the way I feel about it, I guess I have a bias towards it. I know if you go back and play it now, if you didn't grow up on it, some people say it's not that great. And it's very simple in its gameplay. It's basically just jumping and bopping on heads and swinging from vines. There's not a lot of variation and tactics that were introduced in later games. But I mean, that's to be expected. It's an old game. It's like a 25-year-old game nearly. That's a quarter of a century. So I'd say when judging the game on its merits as a game that came out in its time, it's about as good as you could get in terms of platformers or just video games, in my opinion, because that's my style of video game. And like I said, I prefer the gameplay to Mario's gameplay. I really do. Now, a lot of people will tell you that Donkey Kong Country 2, the sequel to this game, was much better. Much better. Not just better, they say it exceeds the first one by leaps and bounds. I think this game gets overlooked a lot in lieu of its sequel, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, because that game pretty much improved tenfold in every area of the original. But I don't think that should hurt the reputation of the original. And I just don't think it should be forgotten just because it had a better sequel. Because sometimes that's rare. A lot of people look back more fondly on first installments in a game series, and sequels get overlooked. But I think this game gets set aside for the sequel. Which, you know, I have to admit, we're not talking about the sequel in this. We're talking about Donkey Kong Country. But I do admit that the second one is the quintessential Donkey Kong Country experience, even though Donkey Kong himself is not a main playable character. But back to Donkey Kong Country, this game, if you've never played it, which I'm sure you have, who would be watching this in 2016 having never played Donkey Kong Country. If you've never played it, it's essentially a bare bones platformer where you control two characters, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and you traverse a land of gator pirates and other baddies in a very traditional 2D platforming sense. I mean, there's really not much more to it. You collect treasures and various collectibles, Kong letters, where at the end of each stage you spell it out. You spell out Kong, literally, and you get lives this way. And there's other tokens and things that you can collect if you're a completionist. Even though I love the game, I don't believe I've ever 100%ed this title, especially not the second one, since there's a difficulty spike. But yeah, it's just pure platforming goodness. I love the Donkey Kong Country world. That's part of it, is the characters. I guess some people would say the gameplay is not that challenging in the original, although some of the later levels do get pretty difficult. But I just love, I guess the nostalgic aspect is kind of looming over this review, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible here and just be completely objective. But shut up! Shut up! Hey! Sorry about that. My dog was biting on her gate. Anyways, I'm kind of just going off into all sorts of different topics here. This isn't a very fluid review. Shut up. But how do I feel about this game? How do I feel about Donkey Kong Country?
I like this game. Everybody wanna play this game.
I like this game. I like it a lot. It's a classic. It's dear to me. It'll always be in my heart. And I go back to it periodically. And I think I will for the rest of my life. Maybe one day I will continue my playthrough of it. I just kind of got a little sidetracked by other games. I apologize for that if you watched the first episode of my Donkey Kong Country walkthrough. But yeah, who knows? I love Donkey Kong Country. I just love the Donkey Kong Country universe, as I said. So I might do some reviews of some of the other games in the series. Because while I love Donkey Kong Country 1, because I grew up with it, it's not necessarily my favorite. So look forward to that. And until then, keep collecting those bananas. Yeah.